Alrighty, we're recording. Welcome everybody. It's January, what is it, 29 or 30? I guess it's 29, right? Tomorrow's the 30th. Welcome to Aligning with Success. Every now and then we see some new faces. Many of you are familiar with the process here. So this is our weekly meeting designed really to evolve awareness of what it takes to succeed. But first of all, defining that, what does it mean to align with success? So recently we had an opportunity to share with everybody a new PowerPoint presentation or PDF presentation for you to start using. I'm hoping some of you have started doing that and are finding some interest in this new dialogue, or I guess reshaped, reformatted dialogue, part of which includes the first slide of the 5 pillars that talks about it in the context of a new definition for success. And in small letters there, you can read the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. I think I was sent an email yesterday of an article that talked about sort of an advanced psychology with respect to personal development. And it has to do with the idea of a person being purpose-driven versus well, if I forget the other thing, but it was a combination of the two they concluded was the best, which was number 1, an ideal, and number 2, a direction toward that ideal, which I sent back the photograph of the vertical axis, the horizontal axis with the arrow pointing to the 5 pillars, which is exactly what that describes. In other words, our definition of success is the pursuit of balance in the 5 pillars of health. So as long as that is the definition, then the definition of success can be something we measure on a daily basis, because it's simply, are you moving in the direction of your ideals now that we've defined them as balance and fulfillment in those 5 pillars, or the expansion in each of those 5 pillars in a balanced way? So it's an easy task to just look and say, okay, did I eat, for instance, today? Did I nourish my body? Was I in alignment with that definition of success, or did I sin? Which, by the way, sin is an archery term. It means the degree to which you are off the bullseye. So the bullseye is moving toward the 5 pillars of health. Did I go a little off track today, or am I still on point? And the goal is to do as much as you can to get that thing back on track and keep it on track, because that's really life, and life is meant to be lived in the moment. And one of the best measures of success is to what degree you're actually living in the moment. Are you really getting the most out of life? And a lot of people are kind of waiting for that rainy day. So now that we have a pretty good understanding that our Nikken business is something that, if we are applying ourselves correctly, is moving us in the direction of our ideal, balance in those 5 pillars of health. And of course, the society pillar is sharing the knowledge with others, which reinforces the financial pillar. And I want to share with you a lot about Salt Lake City. Michelle's on the line. She was there. She can help me out from her perspective. But where did I want to begin? I had a starting point, but I just want to miss. But let me start with, first and foremost, something that we launched recently. It's the incentives program. This booklet. It's been reformatted so that it's actually a really nice booklet that you can hand out. And I really, really want to encourage everybody who's following this program, my direction, that you have printed copies. I know it's available as a PDF from Nikken. Nikken does not include the compensation in their PDF, but I can't stress enough the importance of having somebody hand this out. I purchased 100 of them and handed them out in Salt Lake City. And Jeff, at one point in time, he actually did the incentives program just before they recognized the new members of Team Kaizen. And I noticed everybody who had their copy, many were pulling them out and actually looking at their copies. There's so much value in that they've got it in their hands, they're looking at it, it's there, especially if they're at all serious about this as a business, they want to have it. I just got a question from my group in Latin America, is there an incentive program and so forth? So of course I'm going to recommend this. I'm going to let you know though, I have made a modification. So If you got the first print, there's nothing wrong with the first print. I have the first print. But the next or the subsequent prints should have, and let me just share with you what it should have is this. View full screen. Hopefully you can see my screen. Please do tell if you see my screen. Thumbs up if you see my screen. Okay, thanks, Madeline. Okay, so what is this? It's a redesign of the compensation plan. We talked about this in a few meetings ago. I said I had intentions of having it redrafted, where instead of it being what it's traditionally, you start at the bottom and you work your way up, that psychology, just that mindset alone implies it's a hill to climb, implies it's laborious, implies that there are people above you that are superior to you. It's a very corporate-ish model, and we want to break from that paradigm altogether and show people that this is an equal opportunity playing field where anyone can be involved and can attain these ranks. I guess it was the last or the call before last, we talked a lot about naming your business so that you do not identify yourself as your business. You are not your business. Your business is your business. You're the CEO of your business. And then your business can, in turn, be built and qualify for any of these benefits. So everyone can access these benefits. So you start on the left-hand side, you move to the right, accessing more and more benefits. Also, because you can now see the 6% going down, it's like reaching down into your organization. Makes much more sense because that's essentially what's happening. So rather than trying to climb up, what we're doing is we're just simply going down a path and accessing more as our business continues to expand. So this is a much more logical progression. I shared this with Jeff Isom. I shared this with Kurt Foley, our CEO. They love it. They requested to have a copy. So I don't think that it's improbable that they themselves may adopt this. So this will be now the new page on the inside leaf of the booklet, hopefully starting today. So any questions about that? Any thoughts about that?
It's awesome.
I love it, Mike. It's Michelle. I think exactly what you say. It makes it, for the average person, it makes it unique, for sure. It takes it away from the corporate pyramid that a lot of compensation plans have adopted. I think it's great. It gives a different feeling.
We learned on the Platinum Alliance call today, Mike, that Barb Satterwhite had her 3 legs up on stage with her and was applauded for having her team. So that shows this too, that it's really helping others. So that recognition that has been so important in Latin America, this is a good visual to work towards that.
Great. Okay, good. Well, we don't have to belabor this point. I just wanted you guys to know that that's what's on the slate. And that's now, did somebody else want to jump in?
Sorry, this is Ruth. I just want to ask, so if we order it now, will we have this page in the brochure?
It's print on demand, so I expect that that's the case. I ordered another 100 copies. So I approved this so that I could order my 100 copies. And so they have the proof now, and the next batch will be printed this way. So I assume from that point, because they don't carry inventory, I assume from this point forward that's the case.
Thank you.
Okay.
I've been using it, Mike.
Okay.
It's Barb here. I've been using it, and ever since you posted it on WhatsApp, and have been showing it, and it has made so much more clarity for my people to see the progression and how they're in a position to earn more. So it really has been so much more effective than the old chart.
You know, I'm curious as to how this might shape consciousness going forward. I'm not sure where that feedback is coming from. If you could just mute yourself. There we go. Yeah, I'm always naturally curious as to see, does a subtle shift like this in consciousness add up to, you know, a much more successful. Let me just go ahead and mute. Okay, there we go. You're okay. I muted you. It's okay. So anyway,
It's like a light bulb goes off with them mentally.
well, I'll tell you,
Clarity.
I just know that the feeling has always been, most people look at our compensation plan, they feel you start at the bottom, and they refer to themselves. When they come to me, they say, I'm way down in your whatever. So they're always referring to themselves as some subservient or it's a consciousness that they walk into. And if we turn it on its side like that, then it's not about you climbing. It's about where are you at in the next step in the journey, in your journey. This is your path. And you're not climbing with because you see it above you, a royal diamond. Oh, who's my royal diamond above me? It just sets up this whole tone and consciousness. Whereas if everyone is equal and everyone has the ability to activate degrees of that compensation plan, then it's really about their own personal journey, as opposed to having to climb in relation to others, which is a consciousness that's set up by the corporate environment. So I just think this is a better path, a better way to instruct people on the plan, and it somehow gives them permission to be wherever they want to be on the thing, and it's not in relation to anybody else. So that's a really strong point. There's a chat message here. Let me just check before we move on. Okay, thanks. That's all right. By the way, if you guys know how to mute or unmute, I always have to rehearse with the groups that we're doing the Latino calls, because I got to make sure they know how to mute so that doesn't happen. Anyway, so I want to introduce one more thing before opening it up to some of the dialogue of what happened there. There was an amazing presentation. I want to hats off to Dr. Gary Lindner, who has been working on his self-care presentation and just simply developing his strategy for how to convey that information in a way that's compelling. And after that presentation of his, I just told him it was one of the most compelling presentations I've ever seen for the need for a Nikken wellness home. And he put out, he and please help me out here, Michelle, Heather Abbott, I believe is her last name, right? His significant other did the work on this, the graphic design, which is also really, really exceptional. And at the back of it are the recommendations of the Nikken products in a way that fits the whole presentation. It's a magazine format, so it's almost third-party-ish, but the content in it is brilliant and really speaks a bundle about why we need to be taking this quite seriously. So if you get a chance to actually hear him do that presentation, I know it's been recorded. It's fantastic. I recommend the brochure as well as a real marketing piece for the product. So I think it really does send the message home quite vividly as to why our Nikken wellness home is well, you just can't avoid it. It's just something you cannot ignore. It's done in a way that it's not about a lot of companies that are out there with a product or whatever. They have to make such a big case for their product, its ingredients, its double-blind studies, yada, 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 all about this thing so that you can be convinced that you need this thing. Whereas this presentation is about what you already know you're subject to. And everybody in your home and every member of your family and friends, we're all being hit with this stuff that's causing this body burden. That is unavoidable. That's completely understood. This raises the point to the degree where the numbers really are shocking. And you just know that the simple answer is any one of these things could improve our health. Dehydration, hydrate. We know that's going to improve our health. Sleep, are you really going to argue over whether or not better sleep is going to impact your health? So he takes the obvious and positions the Nikken products as obviously, if you're going to improve your health you're going to improve your health if you sleep a little bit better, if you drink some more water, etc. So the Nikken products don't have to be sold on the merits of their technology and so forth. They're just sold on the merits of the fact that getting a better night's sleep, better water, etc., is going to dramatically impact these numbers, which are scary to begin with. So it's such a great presentation. I highly recommend accessing it and sharing it with people in this brochure as well. Okay, so that's about it for that, tools. So Salt Lake City was a fun experience, as it always is when you get together with Lincoln family. And there were a lot of wonderful presentations from various presenters. Maybe, Michelle, some of those things will stand out for you. One of the things that happened there for me was recognition for Paragon Award and for Team Kaizen. I was recognized there for that. That was fun. We went to lunch as our first lunch with the CEO as Team Kaizen, and that was great. And we discussed our plans for Italy because we all intend to be in Italy. So what you should expect from this Team Kaizen group is real leadership, a vision for the future. And so they're going to be addressing not just themselves, their business, but all of us with a business plan, because the goal is Italy for 2018. There's no reason why everyone, including those who are joining the business right now, shouldn't qualify for that incentive just in the process of building their business the way we would expect anyone to build their business. Given today's compensation plan, especially as we've seen down in Latin America, the advancements in rank, they're like jumping 2 and 3 ranks inside of a year. So we know that the compensation plan, that kind of acceleration is doable. And if you're somebody brand spanking new that has no inhibitions and nothing holding you back like the past in terms of your paradigms, then it's a smooth operation going forward. So the incentives plan that we have in the booklet that I just referred to gives us a really streamlined path for helping somebody achieve that incentive. So we should be expecting 100, if not more, qualifiers for Italy for next year. There's at least that many, about 70 or 80, I think, qualified for Japan out of Latin America alone, and most of them out of Mexico. So we should have that kind of expectation going forward. One of the things we did talk about was expectations, and having higher expectations because of our compensation plan and because of our move toward the sleep system and water technology as our sort of our 1-2 punch getting somebody started in the business. That's becoming more and more apparent. I just want to make one more note and then we'll switch to Michelle here. I heard a fantastic presentation by Dr. Caldwell. If you haven't heard her speak, that's another one to follow. I'm going to make sure we get her on one of our calls because her presentation was just so shocking and striking at the same time. She's a pediatrician, and what's happened in the last 10 years in her pediatric practice is watching children, the incidence rate of children coming into neurological problems, neurological diseases, accelerating absolutely a ridiculous rate. The projections are that get this, 1 in 2 children by the year 2025 on current trajectory will be autistic. 1 in 2. 1 in 2, guys.
Come on.
Right now, it's 1 in 58. It was 1 in 66 when I did my first PowerPoint a year and a half ago. So it's crazy. It's doubling. It's increasing by 14% annually. So this is obviously, this is a reaction to something new in the environment, something new in the body burden. And I'm sure we can correlate, as she has, to the incidence of Wi-Fi, the use of Wi-Fi in our schools, in our homes. You multiply all that electrical toxin and energy that's interfering with the bodies. And she went into it in a little bit more detail about how the cells are actually impacted. So that was a very compelling presentation as well, which again, just makes me want to tell us all, hey guys, what are we waiting for? Like, this is critical now. This is no longer a luxury that we have to be able to tell people about this. This has gotten to be a critical issue, and we seem to be the ones raising it and talking about it in terms of the solution. I saw, Madeline, you just went off your mute.
We have the one that she was on a product showcase and you came in on the end. We have that in Dropbox, so I could send that to you to put on the Royal Alliance.
Sure. Has it been screened for medical claims? Because that's the only thing I would be concerned about putting it on the Royal Alliance.
I think we put the disclaimer on there. You can look at it and see.
Okay, I'll definitely look at it. Otherwise it would be worth popping it up on a YouTube channel where it can be shared just the same, where it doesn't have to be associated with the Royal Alliance. I just think her talk it's really important. People need to hear this. They need to know this is a real concern. Can you imagine if 1 and 2 of your grandkids were born autistic? That would be insane. Michelle, tell us what your experience of Salt Lake was.
You know what? This was probably one of the best that I had attended. I absolutely loved the intimacy at the event. There was no stress. It was very, very well executed. And what I mean by that is the schedule was not rushed. Everybody was relaxed. Everybody was calm. There was no stress. There was lots of time to mingle and network, getting to know the other leaders a little bit better was very, very powerful and inspiring and empowering for myself. And I agree with you 100%. Gary's presentation was just absolutely stellar. And it is something that I do intend on using as an A at my events, and then using those catalogs or brochures or magazines, I guess he's calling them, as a handout. I think that the combination of the both is just extremely powerful. Melanie's presentation was, like you say, it was just such an eye-opener that even while she was speaking, I was posting some of her slides on Facebook and offering a solution. She did make one request. She said that she is going to have this available, the recording available. She does not want it posted on social media because she's got multiple testimonials on this video that she had on her presentation. And because of privacy and whatnot, she does not want it put out on the social media. So I think that it could be a very powerful resource for us if we respect her wishes. I heard a lot about just do it. Just do it. Get. There's an awful lot of feedback that I'm getting here. Just do it. Get out of your way and just do it. Having that burning desire and basically wanting it makes a huge difference in achieving what we want to achieve. So all in all, I thought it was an amazing event. I'm really, really glad that I went, and like Michael, I was honored to be a part of Team Kaizen for 2018, and I'm very, very excited and look forward to that growth in my career.
Thank you, Michelle. By the way, this brochure can be obtained, I believe, if you go to magneticleaders.com. There's a way for you to purchase or order these in bulk, and they're very reasonably priced. So that's mostly the news. I'm sure something else will come to me. In the meantime, one of the things that I found in the roundtable discussions, and maybe Michelle, you might go back to that, because the roundtable discussions that take place at these events are super, super important. It's a real opportunity to find out where people are at in their business and what they're thinking. And I couldn't help but notice, not only myself, but Ben as well, we were talking about it at dinner, and Jeff as well, at how quickly the conversation of business switches to product-centric conversation. In other words, the context of the business switches to the retail paradigm almost invariably every time, even after a very strong business presentation. So those of us that are trying to, and Team Kaizen will most certainly be making an emphasis, and the company itself will be making a strong emphasis on the business conversation. What do I mean by that? Well, if we go to our McDonald's analogy, we know that McDonald's is a realtor, is a real estate company, the corporation called McDonald's. Most people don't know that or don't think about it that way. They think about McDonald's as either a franchise or a fast food provider. Fast food provider is the context of the retail, the consumer environment. The franchise is the context of the small business owner, and the real estate business, that's the context of the big picture. That's why McDonald's has a franchise model, because they wanted to own real estate, and that's how they did it. In other words, the franchise and the French fries are mechanisms. So when we look at our Nikken business in that light, the products and the consultant business is the mechanism to the bigger ticket, which is freedom, personal freedom, and the evolution of those 5 pillars. That's the big ticket. Humans being more means personal freedom to grow and pursue balance. But to do that, you have to have financial freedom, or at least financial balance. And that's where most people are not successful. They're imbalanced financially. And so the business offering is a product, and it's just as important as any product. I kind of like what Rick Murphy did. He held up, I think, a $10 or $20 bill and a pair of insoles. And he said, if you were to stand in pretty much any public place and ask anybody who walked by, which of these two would you rather have, probably 99 out of 100 times they'd want to take the $20 bill and not the insoles. So why are you leading with the insoles, he would say, which is a very, very valid point, right? People want money and are attracted to money, and so what you want to do is you want to show them how to use the insoles to create the income. That's the idea. How do we use, and my analogy of that is this the product or is this the mechanism? Are you going to sell somebody a cell phone, or are you going to show them how a cell phone could be the ticket to freedom? It's still the same cell phone I'm holding up. It's just what's the context I'm wrapping this in. And so we seem to have a very difficult time shifting the field to having a better understanding of this idea, because the habit is so deep, which is why we created the new presentation, business opportunity presentation, called A Better Way. That presentation begins with the business and indicates that finances is the number one source of stress. So if you're going to solve someone's total wellness problem, their health issues, you've got to deal with the cause of stress, and that happens to be finances more than anything else in the grand scheme. So we talk about finances and the Nikken opportunity as a solution. And then, of course, we look at the deliverable. So we're showing the presentation in the order of the real estate business, followed by the franchise business, followed by the product. The real estate business is the new definition of success, balance of the 5 pillars. The franchise is the gig economy and how Nikken fits into the gig economy with a beautiful, scalable, Amazon-like, Uber-like business offering. And then finally, the product, the deliverable, the wellness home and its components. That's why it's presented in that way, if you didn't figure it out. So hopefully by practicing that presentation with that understanding, you'll start to make a stronger case for why the business is an important conversation to have and to incorporate as we look for people to join us in this crusade and show them how well-balanced and profitable it is. Madeline?
Yeah, this Kerry Carpel, I just sent him a note. He tuned in when we practiced on Stan's call, and he's been around for a while. He asked Dee what was going on in Chicago. So Kerry, would you mind sharing with Mike? You saw that new presentation tonight, and when you were coming back and taking another look, so how'd you react to it?
Oh, no, I thought it was great. Yeah, it's good to see that. Some structure to a formal presentation that we can get behind and actually promote. I love it. It was very professional, very, very appealing. Yes, I love it.
Well, thank you for that feedback. I think one of the things that is important for us is the professionalism. We want to appear like we kind of know what we're doing. Not so, no offense, not so mom and pop-ish, because essentially if we're going to give birth to a movement, the next generation movement, we've got to demonstrate how profitable it is. I think it was Dr. Gary Lindner's presentation who said the current healthcare budget, the current cost associated with everything and anything, and I say healthcare, you know what I'm talking about, is $3.2 trillion in North America. 3.2 trillion. Now go back to when you first got involved in Niken. What was the number being thrown around then?
1.4.
Yeah.
And that's the start.
Wow.
So it's more than doubled since when you've been involved. And so we know that that trend is very much perpetuated by self-interest. You know, the largest lobby group in Washington happens to be the pharmaceutical lobby. So as long as there are bullies bullying people into illness and conditioning the mind by basically causing you to think about a question. For instance, if you watch television at all, then you're going to see 1 in 3 television commercials be about nice people having a great old time telling you what you should tell your doctor to prescribe to you. And that kind of conditioning is insane. That's just ridiculous. Yes.
I was at a parish council meeting last night. There's a young pharmacist, a woman who's doing her internship at the hospital across the street in the emergency department. And she said, Madeline, you're not going to believe it. She's to round to see the patient, make the recommendation to the doctor. He's to round to, see how she's coming along. He said, no. He said, that's really good. And that's probably what I would do. But we're told that for patient satisfaction, we have to send them home with at least 2 prescriptions or they're not happy. That's why they're coming. They have to go home with something. And the hospital has told us that we bill for more, so we get paid more. She was just, this 23-year-old pharmacy intern. And as a pharmacist, she feels there's too much polypharmacy. So that is actually being taught.
Well, I'm glad that some are waking up to it. Unfortunately, so few and so late in this game. But if we want to prevent the next generation from going down that path so blindly, we have to make a counter argument. There has to be a strong, formidable counter argument. And the only way that we're going to be listened to is if it's credible and presented with some degree of authority and professionalism. So the direction we're going with respect to professional materials, etc., is for that argument to be made. Yes, we are a network marketing company. Yes, simple is best and short and sweet and to the point, but it's not easy delivering such an important message without really getting into the thick of it. And that takes a little bit more dialogue than just banners, catchphrases. Yeah, Lori?
I just want to say something. My sister just kind of said this little phrase. When my son was getting married, we were eating breakfast, and I opened my banana from the bottom. And she had never seen that before. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, that's the way the monkeys eat them. That's the easiest way to open it. And she was like, really? And she flipped hers over. My Aunt Ann Brienza flipped hers over. They both opened up their bananas. They're like, oh my gosh. They'd never seen that before. And I think that that's what Niken is. We're flipping. My sister just said to me, Mike has just flipped the banana upside down. People don't realize they need the other side of the banana. They think the drugs and whatever else they're doing, they don't know why they're sick, but we got to flip the banana around and show them that it's not really products. We're going for the real estate. We got to flip that, and we got to flip people's idea of what they normally would think is a solution.
Thank you for that. Especially when the argument is being made in the political system for how are we going to pay for health and healthcare, and the justification for the privatized system. Your governments, your politicians go way out of their way to tell you how foolish it is to think to have a one-payer system. And yet, if you looked at every civilized country on the planet, they have a one-payer system. So the idea or the ideal that's being touted is to keep the same old, keep the profits of the pharmaceuticals industry intact, and then subsidize that with insurance, which is another huge fraud. They're betting on you to get ill instead of staying healthy. So it's all stacked against us. We're being driven in a direction that leads to the current scenario, the current circumstance. And it's the same old, same old. It's if all you have is a hammer, then every problem is a nail. And so what's happening is people can only see what they can see because they're all holding hammers. The system has been designed for that. And now when people, customers, clients are going to doctors and saying, I'm dissatisfied because you didn't give me a prescription, that's how bad the brainwashing is. And it's pure brainwashing. There's no question about the propaganda that's happening. It's a big machine. At the tune of $3.2 trillion, it's the largest industry on the planet. So how are you going to compete? The answer is it's not going to come from the top down, too many pockets being lined. It'll come from the bottom up, grassroots, which is why our movement has to be bold, it has to be strong, and it has to be professional, so that it's not just an MLM thing you're pitching, but the business is the vehicle to fund. Are you listening? The business is the vehicle to fund the wellness movement. If it's not profitable, we can't compete, because it's incredibly profitable to be in the illness sector and to be conditioned by the illness industry. So we've got to be the flip side of that equation. Make it extremely profitable to be an advocate for wellness. So you've got to talk about, not only am I going to help you become well, I'm going to help you become wealthy, healthy and wealthy by design. I love what Dr. Gary Linder said, the extension of be healthy by choice, be wealthy by choice. It's a really good way of looking at it.
Mike, could I add on to that? You were talking about the round table and how the subject always came back to the product. Do you know what I heard? In probably about 98% of the presentations or the speeches that were delivered, it was all about their product experience. And I think if we just shift our mind just a little bit and start off with our business experience and why we came into this business, I think just making just that little bit of shift, if everybody did that shift, I think we're going to see a huge difference.
Great point. That's a really excellent point, because it's not so obvious. So we need to actually put the non-obvious front and center and leave the obvious obvious. It's obvious, right? The products are great. But when you stage it that way, in my book, somewhere around here, I talk about this. This is a book called The Science of the Weekend Business. In it, I talk about how I've always communicated the message. Starts with vision. So people would ask me, do you lead with the products? Do you lead with the business? And I'd say, I lead with neither of those. I lead with the vision. What is the vision? The 5 pillars of health. Humans being more. The ideal. That's the vision. And then I would then follow that with the opportunity, which is to change the healthcare paradigm and build a huge business in the process. And then I would validate it by starting with the product. So it would go vision, business, product, and the validation of my presentation. So I present up vision, then business, and then product. And then I would validate it going in the opposite direction. I would start with a product demo and testimonials. Then I would validate the business opportunity with testimonials of the business. And then I would validate the vision with events, big picture events where people get to really experience the human being more connection. So that's the way I prospect or recruit, if you will. Vision, opportunity, products, and then you validate the story with validation of the products, validation of the opportunity, validation of the vision. And so that's how you recruit people who you're looking to recruit into the business. The other thing that came up, though, was, well, if that's what I was doing, then who would I be doing that with? Who would I be inviting to have that conversation with? What would they have to be about? What would their nature be about? What would their focus or their attitude be like, et cetera, et cetera? Suddenly, the focus shifts from chasing ambulances to finding people who have influence, finding people who have passion, finding people who may have or had a sense of purpose and maybe lost it or maybe are on hold or maybe want to enhance it. It would be about finding people who could help you get this message out, which means they have some degree of competence, some degree of confidence in themselves. So now all of a sudden, who you would be sharing this message to wouldn't just be anybody. You would be very particular about who you shared the message to, and you'd be particular about how you find out if this person is somebody you'd be sharing the message with. So you wouldn't limit your conversation to, how come you're limping? And immediately go in for the kill on the knee wrap. You would be looking to expand your understanding of who is this person I'm sharing this information. I'm learning from this person who they are, because who knows, this person may be somebody I should add to my contact list, which is the list of names of people who I plan on purpose with a very specific way to contact. And so I'm bringing this up because I found every roundtable sitting, we had 20-minute roundtable discussions, and I don't know, we had maybe 6 of them. And every single group that sat at my table, I have found myself repeating this over and over and over and over. It was like, they haven't got a clue. I know they want to do well in this business, but the context is so wired wrong that they're not seeing the forest for the trees, or the trees for the forest. I don't know how that goes. But anyway, the point is they were not clear about who they were looking for, how they were going to approach those people, and what was the information they were going to share, and what was the outcome they were seeking from sharing that information. They were completely oblivious to the very simple process of, how do I go about recruiting my next partner? Interpretation in their mind. How do I go about talking to the next person? No qualifications, zero, no context for what I'm building. It's like saying, I'm going to build the tallest skyscraper in Toronto. Let me go talk to the people on the street and see if they want to help. Really? A person who's never held a hammer or a screwdriver or drawn a blueprint, or I'm going to go and ask these people for help. Would you not be very clear about who you were looking for if you were planning on doing something like that? You would be probably looking for architects. You would be looking for financiers. You would be looking for electricians. You would be looking. So when we don't know what it is that we're doing or building, more specifically, there's doing Nikken, there's building a Nikken business. Which one are you doing? And again, that comes back to, get your mind out of the fact that it's your business. You're the CEO of the company. What is the objective of this company? All you have to do is look at the compensation plan to know the answer. Compensation plan tells me what my company needs to do to attain the levels of achievement. So I'm building a company. I can't do it alone. And one of the comments I made is 3 people. All the incentives in the comp plan and the comp plan itself revolve around having 3 partners, which means if you have 3 partners, then all of the downline is under them. There's only 3 people of your downline not under them, and it's them 3. So you're about to go into partnership with somebody and help them build quite a large organization. Think of it that way. There's 3 people, and you've got thousands of people that you've helped find their way to Nikken under those 3 people. So who are those 3 people? Are they just anybody?
And anybody that can lead you to some of those people, you have other resources to help them. So that referral component is also critical.
That's very critical, Madeline. That's one of the things that I said. I said all the trainings that I'm hearing from the front of the room, Michelle, you were there, you heard me say this. Everybody's talking about how to prospect to the general population of people you run into every now and then as you go about your life. I said, what happened to your $1 million list? What about your list? And if you know these people on that list and you approach them correctly, one of the first things you're going to tell them is it may not be for them. And if it's not for them, maybe they can help you indirectly by leading you to somebody who you feel or they feel might be better suited. So every single name on your list should be replaced by at least one name, one additional name. So you should never run out of a contact list. You should never have to worry about running to people in the street. That's not very professional. But if I know I can generate a lead from a lead, or maybe they join me in the business, they come up with their own 100 names list. So I have, at a worst case scenario, 1 name from a contact. Best case scenario, 100 names from a contact. But either way, a contact leads to a contact. It doesn't lead to a dead end. If it's been doing that for you, you're going about it wrong. You need to incorporate into your opening discussion the possibility that this opportunity is not for that person, and that you're calling them for their help, and their help may be just leading you to some other person who is better suited once they have all the information and all the facts. And that way your 100 names list is always replenished. And not only that, but there's a pretty good chance that if you've contacted an 8, 9, or a 10 on your contact list and they lead you to somebody, there's a pretty good chance they're going to be leading you to another 8, 9, or 10. So your hundreds names list could consist of 100 8s, 9s, and 10s in no time if you go about this the right way. All very high quality people. So how does Mike DiMuccio prospect? I sit down with my friends, I tell them what I'm doing, and I ask them for their help. Once I've given them all the clear picture of what it is that I'm doing and the kind of help I'm looking for, they then introduce me to somebody who they feel will fit the bill. So I'm not being sent on a wild goose chase or ambulance chasing for somebody who has a sore elbow. I'm being led to somebody who could contribute to the picture that I've painted.
And be happy to service the one with the sore elbow.
Most certainly. I don't leave anybody behind.
Mike, could I just ask a question just off the top of your head? How many people in your front line were your direct contacts? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. In all the years I've been in NECAN, I think I've recruited probably 80 to 90 people. So how many of those people? 35 people I sponsored in my first 2 months. So at least a third of them just in the first 2 months. I would say more than half for sure of my own personal effort. And then of referrals, probably the other half. Yeah.
So without those referrals, you would have lost that other half.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Or those that left, they rolled up.
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about roll up. I'm talking about what have I personally done since I've been in NECAN. I've recruited personally 80 to 90 people personally. I've personally helped 27 people. No, correction. I have to add the 4 that just came in. 31 people become silver or above. Personally. So figure I've helped more people become silver than most people have in their downline as silver. So I've been on a journey and I've never lost my focus. My focus was recognizing my goal when I enroll somebody is to give them the best start possible. After that, I cannot control what's going to happen. It becomes really whether or not they want to keep it moving forward. But when they're brand new and they know so little and probably even expect so little, it's all me. It's all the effort of the upline directing their enthusiasm, directing their activity so that I can produce an outcome. And that outcome for me is always at least a silver ship. And does it happen all the time? No. But the goal is if I can get them to silver, that means they've got some experience under the belt. They have some money in their pocket. They may even have some people in their downline. Then there might be a good chance they might take this a little more seriously. And it's not really until silver that they even, I think, begin to take this seriously because there's still too much doubt and insecurity around and no matter what who they are in life. They could be a doctor, they could be whatever. People are insecure when they come into this business because, they built their whole life around their reputation and their vocation. And all of a sudden they get into this business and they feel like a duck out of water. They are very insecure and uncertain, and they don't want to look like a fool, and they don't want to put their reputation on the line. So they don't necessarily lead you to the best prospects at first because they're too afraid to. They're afraid to fail. So they want to lead you to somebody they can convince to get in the business. And then when they can't convince that person because that person is the wrong person to talk to, that makes them even more insecure, which is why this exercise of the $1 million list is so critical, because they have to rate every name on that list relative to themselves. And so if they've got a good head of steam and a good self-awareness and self-esteem, they're going to rate people pretty well. You're going to get a good glimpse of what their contact list looks like. If everybody on their contact list is an 8, 9, or 10, I would say that person has really low self-esteem. So expect to have a bit of a challenge there.
Mike, may I add something about the changing the mindset? I'd like to go back to the banana. I heard an illustration once of a monkey. He puts his hand through the bars and takes hold of a banana. As long as he holds on to that banana, he can't get his hand back through the bars. And so he'll starve to death before he can eat that banana because he won't let go of it. And if that mindset that's holding us back from whatever, whether it's the mindset of focusing on customers, or the mindset of somebody being in traditional business and not being able to see the gig economy concept that's so prevalent now, he's got to let go of that banana. Otherwise, he's going to starve because he's not going to get his hand with the banana through those bars.
Very valid point.
He's got to let go of that banana.
So I guess our role in this exercise, and you'll find that's probably 9 out of 10 times, is helping somebody let go of the grip they have on their identity from whence they've come and open up to the possibility there's a better way. And in fact, a better thing to identify with. I mean, that's huge. And that's exactly what it is we're all about, isn't it? That's why our presentation begins with a new definition of success. So on that note, we'll call this, Ruth.
I have 2 quick questions. Do you know if Bernadette has posted tickets for sale for the April 21st event?
Good question. I thought she had, but we can get that information.
Okay, and then the second question is, you have a Toronto event, correct? Is that finalized?
Correct. Yes.
Dates on that?
It's the weekend after Thanksgiving in Toronto, so that's the 11th through 14th. So we're expecting people will come in on the 11th. The event will be held the 12th and 13th. I'm not sure if we're going to do an evening event on the 11th, but the 12th and 13th, and then send off on the 14th. Tuesday? Pardon me? Sunday,
Monday, Tuesday?
No, it's
November 11th.
Thursday through Sunday. So Friday.
It's October, Ruth. It's Thanksgiving in Canada, not
ours.
ours.
Sorry, I'm being.
Correction.
I'm so sorry. Okay. October.
Yeah.
12, 13. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we expect to have a good showing, and it'll be a fun event, I promise.
And is that also going to have its own website, just like the other?
Yeah. All that's in production.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, guys, this has been a real helpful call, I hope, for you, and you might want to share it with some of the people you've invited to NECAN, because I think there's some nuggets here for sure. So look for it on the Royal Alliance. It'll be posted after my next call, so sometime tonight. Great. Thanks for joining. See you next week.
Thanks, Mike.
Night.